another episode of Women In. I am so excited about my guest today, but before I tell you who's on with me today, let me tell you about what you're listening to, because it's helpful to know why you're listening to me. So Women In is a podcast that celebrates women in all walks of life and the people in their lives who are lifting them up. You're going to hear from super cool people in my life, and they're going to share their stories to help inspire others and how they support the extraordinary women around them. This is a space to be disruptive, forward-thinking, and change agents for humankind. It is uncensored, fun, and curiosity-driven. I often get asked what I'm passionate about, and I'm passionate about a lot of things, but breaking down barriers for my kids' generations is one of them. This podcast is equal parts about my guests and how we came into each other's lives, whether it be through the Kalamazoo Wings, Mindfulness Elevated, or Tony Will Coaching, or they happen to be family and friends too. And this guest happens to fall into my pro sports career / friend group, Adam Goldberg. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to having a nice chat with you. After hearing about the podcast and sort of laying it all out, I'm excited to hear your feedback from what my answers are.
Well, before I have to read your bio, because you and I, we have a ton of great conversations, and a lot of it's virtual because you're out in Maine and I'm in Michigan. So a lot of our relationship has been built virtually, but when we get together in person, we talk about all kinds of stuff, we became fast friends because we have a lot of the similar interests. But let me brag about you a little bit so everyone knows a lot about you. So I asked my guests to put together bios, and there's something in here that I think is so cool, and you probably know what it is already. But so Adam joined the Maine Mariners in June of 2017. He's the VP of Business Operations, but you've since been promoted president.
Yeah, I guess that's.
That is very true. Goldberg has been with Comcast Spectre since 2006 when he was with the Philadelphia Phantoms in the American Hockey League. He then moved to Memphis to work with the Memphis Redbirds, which is a AAA baseball affiliate of the St. Louis Cardinals. Prior to Maine, Adam worked with the Hartford Wolfpack, which is also in the AHL affiliate of the New York Rangers. He was born and raised in New Jersey before moving west and attending Arizona State University for a marketing degree. And while at ASU, Adam worked with the Arizona Diamondbacks, the Arizona Cardinals, and was Mr. Bratwurst in the Milwaukee Brewers sausage race during spring training. Beyond being Mr. Bratwurst, some of Adam's passions include time with his growing family, art, food, and music. This is an amazing bio, but I did not know you were Mr. Bratwurst.
Yeah, so I was spring training in Arizona. They have probably half the Major League Baseball teams there. So I had an internship with the Milwaukee Brewers, and they bring their sausages down there, and it's sort of my claim to fame. And it's so funny because my dad, while he was working, he had a picture of me as Mr. Bratwurst on his desk. So people would come into his office and be like, "Oh, are you a Brewers fan?" It's like, "No, that's my son." So I'm sure a very proud moment for him to brag about me being a manufactured piece of meat on his desk.
One of the many things we laugh a lot, and I love your sense of humor. And I don't have a claim to fame like that. That's pretty cool. So I need a picture. You're gonna have to.
I have a couple experiences being a mascot too. There was one time when I was at the Memphis Redbirds, and it was a Tuesday game. And so Tuesdays are pretty light, and we let the mascot go in the seventh inning stretch. And this woman comes up in the top of the ninth inning saying, "Oh, Rocky hasn't been to our suite yet." I said, "Oh, sorry, so sorry. Rocky went to his nest. He's all done for the night, and we'll catch you next time." She goes, "No, you don't understand. You promised me that Rocky would visit. My daughter just got out of St. Jude, and it's her birthday, and you said that Rocky would be there." So I said, "Well, I guess I'm going to be jumping into the Rocky suit." So I jumped into the suit, and it had already been worn for 7.5 innings in Memphis heat. So I dry heaved as my boss zipped up the Redbird suit. And luckily, once the elevator doors opened, it was showtime, and I made the girls' night. But I think I showered with bleach that night. So it was, yeah. So it was, when I always say, in my office, if I ask you to do something, I've already done it myself. So I try to lead by example.
Well, This is interesting. No one on my podcast yet has been able to talk with me about mascotting because you and I live we have the same job, but
Yeah.
just in two different franchises, but the same league.
Yep.
And what was not on Adam's bio, but I'm going to get back to the mascotting here in a second, is you're also the governor on the board of governors with me as well. So, which
Yeah.
is always an interesting world because I get asked a lot about what that means, and I'm like, I'm not the governor of the state of Michigan. This is a pro sports thing,
Right.
but I have been in our mascot costume once. Slappy is our mascot, and
Good for you.
Adam's way taller than me because you're how tall are you? 6 feet,
6'1".
6'1".
Yeah.
I'm
Mhm.
5'2", and so the thing is, there's a lot of extra bird leg, and it was heavy.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was
It's an interesting experience, and then also, sight lines is terrible. You can't see anything. Yeah, it's not ideal. So I empathize with mascots around the world for sure.
I do too. I do too. All right. So the first question I asked my guests, although you and I've already covered a lot of ground, just with the mascot discussion, but I was thinking about how did you and I meet? I know it's with work, but I felt like all of a sudden we were just like on a committee together or something, and we became friends. I don't know, but
Yeah,
we hit it off. But when do you remember meeting me for the first time?
that's you know what? I have a terrible memory, and I don't remember a moment that I met you, but it's almost like I always just knew you were my friend. Like when I first went, my first board of governors meeting was virtual. Um, it was during the pandemic, and it was because at the time Danny Briere was our governor, so I was the alternate. And so I started to go with Danny being there, and I was the alternate. So I did more listening than talking in those meetings. And I don't even remember sort of how we had our first conversation, but honestly, all I know is that after our first conversation, I said this is going to be a friend of mine. Like I
Mhm.
just felt very comfortable. Um, I felt like I could be open and honest with you. Not that I'm closed and dishonest with other people, but it was just a very quick friendship to fall in.
Yeah, that's exactly how I felt about you too. I'm like, I feel like I've known Adam forever, and we spent what city were we in together where we just sat and talked? It was during an All Star game or something. Was it All Star? I don't even know what we
Yeah,
were
we
at.
in Norfolk. Maybe that was sort of where things, we really cemented our friendship was at the Norfolk All Star game when we sat there and we sort of walked around together.
We
Because
did.
that's the other thing. I didn't really have any allies, and so I was sort of by myself. And I was like, all right, Tony's willing to hang out with me. I'm holding on tight.
Yeah, and because you and I, we bonded over a lot of things, but our love of reading
Hmm.
was something that we talk about every time we're together. We're like, "Have you read this? Have you read that? Have you?"
Yep.
And so I always send my podcast guest questions, and I go completely off script because that's just my personality. But
Yeah.
I need to know what you're reading right now because I'm sure I'm going to want to read it.
Well, so right now I've got the Daily Stoic. So I've got this on my desk. I read it every day. Also, I've got two toddlers at home, and I've got a baby on the way. So there's not a lot of reading time. What I'm reading now currently is like Little Blue Truck, The Hungry Caterpillar. So those are my main books right now. But um, the my favorite book is A Short History of Nearly Everything by Bill Bryson. I think we've talked about it a lot, but I am a nonfiction only person.
Hmm.
Um, I'm sort of angry with myself as far as how seriously I took school while I was in it. I was just taking classes just to get grades. I was just trying to memorize things so that I could get a good score on tests. And now I just have a lot of varied interests, and I want to know a lot more stuff. So I always try to read things where I come out on the other end with a little bit more tidbit. So
Yeah, yeah. Well, and that's when you're just such a curious person, and that I gravitate towards people who are growth minded and have a curious mindset, and you certainly
yeah,
have that.
and passed along to my staff too. I use those stoicism quotes a lot with my staff. The biggest one that I use is I value effort over results.
Hmm.
As long as you work hard, it may not turn out the way you want it to, but as long as you put your heart into it and you're okay with the amount of effort you put into the project or the phone call or the meeting, then I'm fine with it. doesn't have to end up being a sale. It doesn't have to end up being something that you post on LinkedIn. But if you put the effort in, then that's all I really care about.
Yeah, and you've had a lot of great success in Maine. I was
Hmm.
honored to be able to. I was hosting the league awards. I have stepped back from that, but as you know, because you were on that
Yeah.
committee with me. But the team has won awards in the front office, which I was just so thrilled for you guys because you really have worked hard. And when you don't rule with an iron fist, and there's a lot of trust and autonomy, look at the results you're getting.
Yeah, it's been quite a path here. I just had somebody in my office looking to get into sports, and I was talking to him about all the other places that I've been to, and it was more of a dumpster fire that I was walking into. And here, wasn't necessarily a dumpster fire, but it was a new team. But we also didn't necessarily have a honeymoon period because they had professional hockey prior to the Mariners 2 years prior with the AHL Pirates, and their exit left a little bit of a bad taste in people's mouths. So I think that our work was building trust back in the community. So being able to come into an office with nothing and literally building the desks, putting the phones on the office desk, and building the chairs that we sit in, and seeing it from scratch to where it is today, it's been the most fulfilling part of my career for sure.
Yeah, and I came to Maine last fall and to visit. I like to visit all the teams, but I was there for a conference in my alcohol-free life that I have, although they all converge. And I was like, I'm going to be right there. Can I come visit? And you're like, of course. And I got
Yeah,
to meet a lot of your fabulous staff. And you have an in your front office staff, you have a nice balance between men and women. And one of your employees had mentioned to me, she's like, it'd be great if we did a women in sports type of piece for the ECHL. And I was like, oh my gosh, yes. And I ran with it. And it has been like, what a year. So Natalie, who's on your staff,
yep,
and she's on my list for podcasting at some point.
good.
But talk to me about that because I Commissioner Creelan on the podcast this week too, and we're talking about I've been here with the ECHL and the Kalamazoo Wings for almost 10 years, and the first 3 years. I didn't really. I was so busy. Talk about a dumpster fire. I was so busy trying to work on the franchise, right? And
Yeah,
I didn't notice that I was a minority. I just didn't notice, and I didn't care. And then one day I'm in a board of governors meeting, and I'm like, oh, you sit in those meetings with me. You know what it's like. And so it's interesting because I don't know how to explain it. There are challenges to it being a woman, but at the same time, it's I don't know. So I'd love to hear your perspective as a man in these meetings and seeing like you hire women and what you've seen in the space of women's growth in pro sports and men's pro sports nonetheless. So I know there's a lot
yeah,
there, but
yeah. I think that honestly, the minor league front offices are so small that you don't really have the luxury of hiring a weak link. So you don't really go into it thinking I want to hire a certain person, gender, race, whatever it is. You just have to hire the best person. Um, I think that uh, being a woman, that there, especially in sports, there is an element of having a chip on your shoulder, which is totally understandable because it has been just in my career. I've been in my company for 18 years and see the growth of women within the office and women climbing the ladder and getting to more senior level positions. Um, but yeah, it's not necessarily something that crosses my mind. I guess it probably plays into my subconscious. I'm the middle child, and I've got an older and a younger sister. So I've certainly been around women, and I think that that's probably part of it that plays into my subconscious. But really, I just look to hire the best person I can, person that's going to fit in to the office dynamic. And that's what I tell everybody. All I want is to hire good people because, and no offense, Tony, but like our jobs aren't that difficult. Like
no.
it's not like it's not complex, it's not science, it's not medical background, it's not government. So we just need, if we get a good person in there, they will find a way to be successful in whatever role we put them in. Um, and it just so happens that we have a good mix. And I think that it honestly ends up creating a dynamic in the office that is more understanding and empathic because of that mix. Um, and I wish that it was more of a conscious thing to go out and create a more diverse workforce and diverse office. But at the same time, it just so happened that those were the best candidates for the job.
Oh yeah. I mean, I run into that. I'm hiring right now, and it's like, and actually, I changed my whole hiring practice this time. I'm letting my staff, all of them, do all the interviewing, and then they're going to send me the top two candidates.
Yep,
I trust them. I want them to have that development, right?
totally.
And you get that. And you know what's interesting as I'm listening to you speak, and I think about your crew. Like one of the traits that I admire most about you is that you have a lot of empathy,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of men that struggle with that because it would, and you don't appear this way at all, but it, you know, there's no ego, there's no pride. Like you're not trying to be anything other than just Adam, but you have a lot of empathy. And have you always been
Yeah,
hardwired that way?
I guess that's you'll ask my staff. That's the word that I use the most. That I, it's I was interviewing somebody with our director of sales, and they mentioned the word empathy, and right away Sam was like, "Oh, Adam's gonna love that. Like that's his word." Um, no, I mean I mean I've always struggled with anxiety, specifically social anxiety. I went to a very social college at Arizona State University where there's tons of people and um, I just was never incredibly comfortable with my skin, and my hat was hung on my profession. So I knew that if that was something that I could control, if I was good at my job, like that would be in lieu of my personality. That's how I would that's how I would present myself is how good I was at my job. Um, and I think I missed out on some things in life because of that, and I was just so focused on being good at my job that I felt like that's that's what validated me as a person. And I think that as I've progressed in my career, I've been more reflective and self-aware as far as understanding that people shouldn't have to go through life the way I did. And I want, I talk to college kids and I talk to entry level positions and saying like, listen, this job is not your identity. Like you're just sort of figuring things out as you go. So, um, and also, going back to the mascots, like I've been in a lot of different shoots, so I can understand what is going on and how people work. And some people like drama. I do not. So a lot of times I think I tend to engage with people that are more empathic, and if they're not, then I don't deal with them unless I have to. So it just sort of ends up getting to a point where the only people that I deal with on a consistent basis and deal with um, more so are people that are also empathic or people that I feel like are of value to me and to the profession and to our office here. So I think that probably feeds into it as well.
Do you think that part of, because you and I've talked about anxiety, because I've struggled with anxiety too, and I'm not ashamed to talk about that. Well, I'm not really ashamed to talk about anything, quite frankly. But, uh, and you and I talked about that when we spent time together in Norfolk. And do you think some of your anxiety might stem from being so empath? Do you feel like you're an empath, like that you take on other people's emotions?
Yeah, yeah, I think so. I don't want to ever upset anybody. I don't want anybody to feel bad. I don't want to be the cause of anybody's bad feelings. And I certainly take that on my shoulders. For example, we're hiring an entry level position, and I had to let a group of people know that they didn't get the job, and I just felt I kept kicking that can down the road, and it's just like, yeah, it happens. Like there's only one person I can put in this role, but I just feel so bad for the other people because I've been in that position of like, I wanted to break into sports, and it's like I'm spraying and praying with my resume, and I'm not getting any calls back, and um, I just know how difficult it can be to feel that rejection. And that, I mean, that's really what it boils down to is I hate the thought of rejection. And I hate that concept. And so I avoided it at all costs. And it's probably why I didn't apply to more jobs, like as my career was progressing. Like I didn't even want to get into a position where I could have been rejected by a job. I'm just going to keep my head down. And it's ended up working out quite well for me, where as I'm ready to progress in my career, an opportunity opens up in house. Um, but yeah, I think that that's probably part of it. Yeah, and just I like so now I'm taking anxiety medication, and I was always hesitant to take medication because I'm like, I think anxiety is part of who Adam is. And if I take medication, all of a sudden, am I going to become a vegetable? Like, am I going to start to become somebody else? Like, I didn't want it to change who I was. So then you start feeding into that of being like, well, maybe anxiety is just a part of my personality, which is not I don't think it's the right way to go about things. And I ended up trying medication, and it just does such a good job working in the background where I don't necessarily. I still have anxious moments and anxiety, but it works so well in the background where it's not all consuming. And also part of it is I've just become more confident in who I am. Like I can look at what I've done and accomplished, be proud of it, and I think that that also gives me something else to hang my hat on. You know, the family life, letting my roots grow here in Maine, and having that part of it also helps. It's just sort of the maturation process
Hmm.
of Adam, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, I'm on anxiety medication too, and I what was interesting is well, you know this, I stopped drinking almost 4 years ago, and my anxiety, and I was not medicated with anxiety medication at that time, but my anxiety completely went away. That makes sense because when you drink alcohol, it just pours, it's like
Yeah,
a gas on a fire with
yeah,
anxiety, and then about a year and a half in, my anxiety just ramped way up, and I tried to. I had all these beliefs like, wait a minute, you stopped drinking, so this shouldn't be happening to you. And
right,
it's like, hang on a minute, Tony. This is just how your brain is wired at this point. There's
totally.
nothing wrong with asking for help.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's not. It's exactly how you described it. I'm Tony.
yeah,
I'm just me
right. Yeah, and it
without
hasn't changed.
thinking I'm having a heart attack every 2 seconds.
Correct. Yes. Right.
Panic attack. Those
Totally.
suck, by the way. Panic attacks. Have you had one?
Yeah, I have. It and it happened. I've had a couple. I remember one was at the end of my college stay, and I was worried about finding a job. And it was like I just woke up one night. It felt like a sumo wrestler sitting on my chest. Like I don't know what's going on. And the other time was I was starting a paid internship in Delmarva with the Delmarva Shorebirds, Eastern Shore, Maryland. So this was my introduction to the company that I'm in now. At the time, they owned three of the Baltimore Orioles minor league, um, and I got a paid internship with that. And I moved into an apartment, and it was barren. And I remember sitting on the couch watching TV. I had just gotten there, and all of a sudden, I thought I was having a heart attack. Like I don't know what a heart attack feels like, but I felt like that in my chest. And I remember calling my parents, and they're like, "Well, just go to the doctor and get it checked out." And I went there, and I remember the nurse was so dismissive because she's like, basically like, "You idiot! There's nothing wrong with you. Like, yeah, you got a raised heartbeat, you got pain in your chest. Like, I'm gonna give you Tylenol and get the hell out of here." And it was like, I certainly I feel like they could have been a little bit more empathic to what was going on, but it was such a transitional time in my life where like I basically jumped headfirst off of a boat to go across. I started in California, drove across the country to Maryland. I was by myself, and it was just like I'm gonna have to make it by myself. And I was a young kid, young dumb kid, didn't know up from down, and it was just I think it just got to
Yeah, yeah. So tell me about who the women in your life are, like your inner circle of women that have been instrumental in who you are, Adam.
Yeah. Well, honestly, the top of the pyramid is my wife,
Hmm.
Nicole. She's just the greatest person I've ever met. And I tell her as much as I can because I need her to know how special she is to me. I think that it's just, it, you talk about finding love and you talk about finding your person, and um, the fairy tale of having that one person out there for you. And I don't necessarily subscribe to that. Like I think that there are multiple people out there that would make me happy, but I can't imagine anybody else making me more happy than Nicole. So I think I ended up finding the top person. I think that maybe a relationship with somebody else could have worked out.
Mm-hmm.
I just happened to be lucky enough to find the best one for me. Um, yeah, she's just an incredible mother, an incredible partner.
Mm-hmm.
We complement each other, and it's just such an incredible relationship where we we're not tired of each other ever. Like we just always want to spend time with each other and around each other, and we make each other better, and we support each other, and it's just um, I want everybody to feel what I feel for Nicole. I want them to understand that there is that euphoria, personal connection out there. Um, and it's almost I feel self-conscious talking about my career path and also my personal life because it almost feels like I'm cheating because you see all these like social media posts about, oh my gosh, my spouse XYZ, like I can't stand that they do this, and they're putting all this sort of negativity out there, and they're doing pranks on their spouse and all this stuff, and it's like I can't even consider that. Like I don't, it just doesn't even work in my mind, and I just um, it's just something so special that we have with each other. And our two boys are angels. We've got a girl on the way, and I cannot say enough about her. Like I don't know, I could go on forever, and you could just say, Adam, we were out of time. Like we got to stop here. Um, so if you want to have a Nicole podcast, I'm up for it. We'll book a couple hours.
I
Um,
love it.
but besides that, I mean, my mom, I'm a mama's boy.
Mm-hmm.
That's something about the crossover in my professional career. It's been so funny because I've involved my parents in my job, telling them all the crazy things that I'm doing. Like I remember I walked in on an Elvis impersonator changing into his costume, and it's like stuff like that where it's like it's just so bizarre that I'm doing these things. And um, I would call my mom when I had bad days at work or a bad game. So like something went wrong. Also, it's very helpful that my mom and dad they live in California currently, so they're the time difference. So I was able to call them after every game, no matter what. They weren't asleep yet. So I would call her up and say, "Oh my gosh, you wouldn't believe the video board broke down, or somebody slipped on the ice or whatever." And so now she goes to sporting events. She's a sports nut too. She'll go to sporting events. Something will happen, and she'll tell me about it. She goes, "Yep, somebody called their mom on the way home tonight. That's for sure." So um, yeah, my mom and dad are just amazing supporters of me. They helped me get sort of over the hump in this industry. To make it in sports, I think you need a strong support system. I've got two sisters, like I mentioned. I'm the middle child, so I'm sort of the peacekeeper. But both of my sisters are just so incredibly powerful and strong people that that sort of goes back to my comment about like in subconsciously, hiring women. Maybe I'm just like my sisters are so strong that I'm like, of course, women can do whatever whatever they want. Like I've seen it with my own two eyes that they can do that whatever they put their mind to. Those are I, I've been blessed with a great mother-in-law as well, Nicole's mom. She's been in town for a few months. She's going to be here till the birth, just supporting us. Like when she showed up, I told my parents, I said, the village has arrived, because it takes a village to help us. And my mother-in-law is the village all in one person. Um, so yeah, I probably should have given more thought, and I apologize for any women that I'm thinking that I can't think of offhand. But whenever somebody says like talk about the women in your life, like my mind just goes to Nicole and my mom and my sisters. So um, those are probably the tops for me.
Well, yeah, and that's the inner circle, right? Like those are the influential women who've
Yeah,
helped make you who you are and will continue to. And we're just getting started, right? Like
yeah,
I'm a little older than you, but the best is yet to come. because the
Totally.
second half of our life is where we can truly make an impact and I don't know, like feel more like just more authentic. Like that's just all I'm all about that. And I am
Yeah.
that like you talked about like chip on the shoulder. My God, my husband says that about me all the time. And it's served me. I mean, I'm
Hmm.
just and I'm our stories could not be more opposite, right? And probably why we gravitate towards each other because I in Kalamazoo, Michigan, born and raised, never moved, never wanted to be in sports, didn't care about sports, still don't really care. I love the Kalamazoo Wings, right? And it's like, and I've been married 3 times, and it's just funny how like it's just fascinating. But I totally the people in our lives that core circle. It makes a difference, and that's one of the things, as you know, I'm really passionate about is diversity, equity, and inclusion. And when I learned that you were having a daughter and thinking about like if she were to go in sports, right?
Hmm.
What you would want for her, and I think about that like I want these young women who are coming up to not to feel a little bit more inclusive, and so I continue to like beat on that drum, as I like to say. So
Yeah, I think that your personality, you're not afraid to be the tip of the spear, and I so like you're sort of the first one through the door, and you're unapologetic about it. But the thing is, you don't barge into things that you're not qualified for. Like you don't say things just for the sake of saying things. Like I've even talked to you about like, hey, why don't you talk more at the
mhm.
board of governors meeting? Yeah, you don't say, "Hey, I'm the token woman here, and I feel like I need to talk." You speak when you have something to say, which I think is more important,
Yes.
a more important quality to have.
Well, and I love that. And that's one of the things I value about our friendship is that you will say, "Hey, Tony, why don't you speak up?" Like you'll say things to me that most people won't.
Hmm.
And I don't know. I think I'm not trying to be intimidating at all, but I think I come off that way sometimes. And I love that because then I think, and I'm like, yeah, why don't I?
Hmm.
Um,
Well, because
or
I just
why?
value your opinion so much, and I'm like, it's almost like like I was saying, Nicole. Like I want everybody to know Nicole. Like I want everybody to know what you're thinking. I want everybody to understand what your opinion is on these various things that we work through at the board of governors meetings, and that's really where it comes from. Is saying like we have all of these conversations about what's going on in the league. I'm like, that's what I want. You should tell it because to me it makes you make so much sense when we talk out through these issues.
Yeah, no, it's true. You know what? And I think I probably said this to you, knowing me. I'm afraid if I open my mouth sometimes, all that's going to come out are fucking F bombs. Like, fuck this and fuck that. I probably said all that because I get angry and talk about drama. There is sometimes drama in these board meetings.
Sure.
This league keeps growing, and of course we're not all going to see eye to eye, right?
No.
And it's okay. I just want everyone to do it my way, Adam.
Understandable. Understandable. I don't think that you're different than anybody else. And that's honestly where we differ too, because I'm like, I don't necessarily need it my way. Like maybe your way's better, and I'm fine to just ride on the train. Like I don't need to be the driver on this. And I think that that's helped me in my career is just knowing that I can listen to other people's perspective. I'm not saying that your way is wrong of like I want it my way all the time, but I am I I don't ever feel like I have the best idea or the right idea and it's just I think I've grown into my position where I know that people look to me to make a decision and I will. Um, but at the same time, I want people to know that I value their feedback. I tell the staff all the time, everybody's pizza slice is the same size in our office. I just have different toppings. Like I just deal with different things than you do, but I don't work harder than you. I'm not more important than you. So that's just sort of the mentality that I try to share.
Yeah. Oh, I just love that. So one of the things I like to talk about is, um, I've changed my mind about a lot of things over the last, especially the last 4 or 5 years. I used to believe that like once you're kind of you just are who you are. You're hardwired a certain way, and now I call bullshit on all that.
Hmm.
And we're allowed to change and evolve and grow. And so, what have you changed your mind about lately?
Yeah, I was. I was trying to, I saw your question and I was like, I don't, I guess, um, I've changed my mind about things about with more so on the personal side with parenting, where it's almost like it's okay to worry, um,
Mm.
but it's not okay for my worry to get in the way of my kids. So like, I want to wrap my kids in bubble wrap, keep them at home until they're 50 years old, and then send them out into the world finally to maybe go get some milk and come back. Like I want to just them to be safe. I want them to be healthy, and I just want to shelter them from everything. And that is just obviously a terrible way to go through life. Um, so I think that it's not like I don't think I was ever going to go down that path of sheltering them completely from everything, but um, it's almost like we went for a walk on a trail the other day, and my kids really only know sleep or running. Like those are the like they wake up and they start running until they fall asleep again. And so they're running. They got these boots on. They're sort of big, so like looks like one of them's about to fall. And I yell out, hey, be careful. And then he stops running, and I'm like, damn it, Adam. Like, why'd you have to like just let him skin his knee, let him fall over? Like, it's like I never want to see my kids uncomfortable. I never want to see them sad, and I need to allow them to be sad. Like it. I have like pre-anxiety about that. Like they're going to have their heart broken. They're going to fail a test. They're going to question themselves so much as a person. And I want to at least do my best to give them the tools to work through that, but I can't give them the tools to avoid that. So that's been it's a tough realization. I want everything for them, and I just want them to have 100% perfection in life, and that's just not a possibility. Um,
It's
I
so
just
true.
need to.
Have you asked your mom and dad like how they navigated like your coming of age and when you were the young kid driving around the country at these different sports jobs like because I would imagine you carry similar traits to your mom and dad and that empathy probably stems from some of their qualities.
Yeah,
Have they shared that?
they're so I mean my dad is like spearheading like inclusion DE and I stuff. Like he's just so inclusive as well. And my mom is I think she's sort of a the thing is with my mom, she is the sweetest person. Like I could give her a hug for hours. Like I just like I feel comfortable when she's around. Like her her hand on my shoulder is like penicillin to me. Like it
Hmm.
can cure all. Um, but I will say, if you poke the bear enough, there is a bulldog inside of her, and she was born and raised in Montana, and it can come out if it gets to that point, and it like that's what I love about the dynamic of my parents and their love for each other. Um, it's just it was such a stereotypical white picket fence raising, but at the same time, they instilled in me that everybody matters. Like listen to everybody's opinion. Um, and I think that's yeah that certainly influenced incredibly from my parents growing up, and I think that they're just sort of proud of what I've been able to make of this wacky career. I always say like uh, being in the minor leagues with shoestring budgets, like I'm tasked with making chicken shit into chicken salad, and I think that they're like impressed and proud of me for continuously putting out chicken salad and just sort of following along like it's interesting, the butterfly effect of everything that's happened in my career, all these little choices that have extrapolated out into what my career in life has become. And obviously they're at the forefront of that butterfly effect. But yeah, it's been fun to sort of carry them along in my career. And the my dad also um, from a professional side of things. Like I always go to him for advice,
Hmm.
and he's just so well thought out and has just such a healthy perspective on things. And then, yeah, my mom is there. She's like my blanket. She's there for my comfort.
I love that. I was thinking today because I was like, I've changed my mind about like low hanging fruit stuff, like I mentioned, like alcohol and stuff like that. But this is this week's what I've changed my mind on, and this is yours is really sweet and mine is ridiculous. So I decided that I was going to start collecting something because I don't collect anything. And
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, I'm going to collect something. So this is what
Okay.
I've changed my mind about. Collecting something's cool, and I'm collecting gnomes.
Okay.
So I bought a gnome that because we live on a lake, so I bought a lake looking gnome. And then
Yeah.
I went on Amazon and I planted my garden year two, and I bought a gnome for out in the garden, and then I bought a Fourth of July gnome for out near the we live on 2 acres out here, and so now I name them all, and some of them
Yeah.
light up, and Josh thinks I'm ridiculous, but I'm
So how
like,
many do you have now?
so just in the short period of time that I've decided to collect gnomes, I have four.
Okay.
So
So
does that even
I think
count?
4 is good for a quick, like you start collecting and 4 is a decent number. Like if you said 20, I would have said, you know what, you're buying them without any thought. Like they need to sort of speak to you, even though it's a collection.
I need to get better. If I'm going to collect something, it just cannot, it's got to have meaning, is what I'm
Right.
hearing.
Right. I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But why gnomes? What stood out?
So
Do
here's
you have
what
any idea?
happened. I was at the store. I went to Chloe and I went shopping together, and I don't have time to shop because between
Yeah.
my day job and my coaching business stuff like that. But we went to At Home. Usually go once a year around my birthday because I have a coupon, and I don't even care about coupons because whatever. But apparently this one motivates me, and
Yeah.
so they had sport gnomes. They had a basketball one, baseball, football. Guess what? They didn't have, Adam.
Hockey.
They didn't have a fucking hockey gnome. So then
Yeah.
I was mad. So I'm like, well, I'm going to go find a different gnome that I like. That's what it
Okay.
started as.
Yeah.
A chip on my
So
shoulder
a chip
gnome.
on your shoulder. Yeah. Yeah. That's it.
God, I need a therapist. Anyway,
Well,
this
good
is
luck on your gnome journey. That's I don't even where did I don't e- I'll have to look it up. I like to learn new things. I don't know the history of gnomes and why that whole thing even started.
I
So
don't either, but now you know that
yeah.
next time you see me, if you see a gnome,
All right.
you have to send it to me.
Well, I'm going to pick a special gnome for you so that it's Adam's gnome, and at least you know that. I'm not going to dump a bunch of gnomes on you. So I will find a good one.
But here's the other thing I said to Josh, if I die, because I'm on airplanes all the time. And I said, if I die, this gnome collection cannot go to waste. And he's like, what do you want me to do with it? I'm like, one of my friends will want my gnome collection. Maybe it'll be you.
Maybe you never know. I don't know. Maybe my kids will start a gnome collection, and I'll want to take those on. So
You'll be like, this is this woman. Listen to this podcast. She's dead now, but we were on here together. Oh my gosh. Okay. I want to know, we've got a couple more minutes. How do you
yeah.
lift women up? Like, do you? I mean, not that it's a bad thing, right, wrong, or indifferent, but what do you do to lift women up?
Yeah.
Whether it's your
I
wife
mean,
or your soon to be daughter or whatever.
this sort of goes back to like just hiring the best person. I think that being a woman in sports, probably there is deep down as bulldog as you want to be, there's probably some doubt in there and self-doubt.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so just reiterating and making sure that all of my coworkers know that their opinion is valued, um, that they have the right to talk about any issue or thing that we have within the office or the profession. Um, I always say, you know more than you think you do. Like just trust yourself to speak up and say what you think. And I think as far as, my incoming daughter, just letting her know, it's sort of cliche of like, oh, you can do whatever you want, like that, sort of like a just do it type thing. But um, I think just making sure that they understand that they will make mistakes, they will say the wrong thing at the wrong time, and you just have to be able to know that is human, not just attributed to a certain gender. It is human to make mistakes. It is human to say things good, bad, indifferent, and everybody does it. So there's no real point in trying for perfection because it's unattainable. So just be who you are, and be willing to learn and change as well. that's something that's important as well, is just keeping in mind that you're going to have times where all of a sudden you're going to find out that you were wrong, and it sucks. I mean, it's like, wow, I was standing on that soapbox for, days, months, even years, and now all of a sudden I find out that it's not right. It's embarrassing to find out that you were wrong or you need to change your opinion, but it just shows such incredible growth, and strength to be able to admit that you're wrong and sort of make a 180.
Oh yeah, I'm a big fan of being wrong because I do it so often. So I mean that's where I learn. It's
Yeah.
it's not from my successes. It's from the mistakes or
Yeah.
the failures, and I'm not afraid to fail. I mean at all. So
Yeah.
it's
That's something that I need to get better at. I need to fail more often.
I can help you. We can
Good.
fail together.
Thank you.
Well, thanks for coming on. If people want to connect with you, where do they find you?
Uh, well, so I always say when people come to Portland, it's a great place to visit. And people come in, they're like, what should I do? I think even you said like, Adam, where should I go? And I'm like, you know what? I go from home to work to daycare. Like that's my triangle. So like, if you want to find me, I'm probably at Growing Learners Daycare picking up my kids, uh, or I'm at home, or I'm at the arena. Um, but I'm not. I'm not too active on social media. I mean, you can certainly find me on LinkedIn,
Hmm.
marinersofmaine.com. It has my bio on there with my phone number and email. So, yeah, I think that would be probably the best way to get in
Yeah.
touch with me.
Or they can come to me and I know how to find you.
That's true, too.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on. Thanks for being my
Yeah,
friend. Thanks for being
of
awesome.
course. Yeah, I'm ready to do this again. We could probably talk for another hour if you let me.
Oh,
So,
God.
this
Absolutely.
was, yeah, I really enjoyed talking to you, and just to be able to have it actually recorded, and I'll be able to listen back to our conversations. It'll be fun.
Yeah, and we'll
A
have
little
at
time
least,
capsule of our friendship.
exactly, and we're going to have at least like 5 listeners because your
Yeah,
mom, your dad, your wife, and your 2 sisters, and Ryan Creelan, the commissioner. We got 6.
that's enough in my book.
And me and you, 8.
Yeah, yep. You checked
We're
every
off,
box that I got. So,
we're off and running.
yeah.